Here we are, the long-awaited Captain Marvel soars onto the big screen with a high-flying adventure of the year with a feminist message about the indomitable power of women and shows why Thor is a power fantasy for fat white nerds who don't get laid much. Now that is something I would have said if my head was so far up my ass I could tickle my prostate with my goatee, but Captain Marvel really wasn't even worth that kind of a comment either. Now I must keep it politically neutral. Captain Marvel is about as deserving of the critical panning it has received as a newborn calf is to being turned into a hamburger from birth. Captain Marvel stars Brie Larson as the titular discount Super Saiyan, Samuel L. Jackson returns as Nick Fury before he wanted to roleplay Dan Crenshaw, and some dude named Jude Law. The story goes that Brie Larson's character, nicknamed Veers, is a member of the Kree race of warrior heroes who are sent on a mission to track down the Skrulls, shape-shifting aliens who infiltrate planets from the inside out and destroy entire civilizations like Hugo Chavez, and it's up to Captain Marvel to stop them. I said before that this film is not worth the critical panning it has received, but equally it does not deserve the critical praise either, like Blizzard announcing Diablo Immortal. Thanks for another Diablo title, I guess, but why the hell did you put it on a phone and not your computer app? Makes about as much sense as Mega Man absorbing the power of Vista Man. Captain Marvel is such a weird combination of elements that mix about as well as a Cosby drink. The action in wide angles is great and feels powerful, but when it's up close and personal, the hand-to-hand combat is so quick and shaky I thought Gary Ross and Michael Bay were going to be credited as the producers. For example, Captain Marvel and the Skrull fighting as an old lady on the train is so compact and choppy that if you rub your eye out of boredom, you will have missed 90% of the fight and not know where you are, like you listen to your wife's directions instead of the GPS. While wide-angle shots like her taking on the fleet in space are steady with few cuts so you can jump over backwards, uppercut the kid who's kicking your seat, eat his candy, and sit back down without having missed any context. The acting is pretty good overall with a side cast like Samuel L. Jackson providing a lot of the side humor with his character's out-of-touch observations about the events he's caught himself up in, like if you had Gabriel Iglesias do a riff track of Game of Thrones. And by the way, the CGI used to de-age Jackson to look the age he's supposed to be in this movie is fucking amazing. We have really come a long way since Clue and Tron Legacy. Anyway, Brie Larson on the other hand, bar a few exceptions, is so wooden throughout the entire movie you can probably replace her with Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddy and you would have gotten the exact same performance. Larson is so miscast in this role with a lack of charisma covered up by quips it was like watching Tony Stark if they gave him a lobotomy. Being the titular character, her performance should have been enough to carry the movie, but instead the supporting cast has to carry her over the finish line like the 2009 Bears defense and Captain Marvel herself is Rex Grossman. The movie also doesn't know when to stop shoving the nostalgia down our throat like your grandfather remembering the days when a quarter used to cost a nickel. If you thought Larson crashing through the roof of a blockbuster then later wearing a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt was the limit of the 90s nostalgia this movie was going to throw at you, then this film will make you roll your eyes harder than the knowledge of the Spice Girls reuniting. Seriously, that happened. Which is a shame since Captain America the First Avenger and Thor Ragnarok existing should teach how to blend this better, but instead we get a film that feels like the first phase of Marvel with a soundtrack ripped from Kidz Bop. The pacing is also stop and go like a four-way intersection with a broken light. The first act flows fairly smoothly, though the second act just drags on and is so boring I thought I was watching the second season of The Walking Dead. Then the third act looks like someone driving on the highway at 70 miles per hour, but their anti-lock brake system had a stroke. It ends so quickly and anticlimactically that it makes you question why introduce certain characters if they are just there to posture like Arnold Schwarzenegger on SNL. I guess we should discuss the elephant in the room. If you want a trophy like such, you might want to bring it down with a 470 Nitro Express round fired out of any rifle that can handle the caliber, and as long as the shot is clean, it should be quick. If you want to talk about the politics of the movie, then that is much easier to do. The feminist message in this movie is almost entirely absent, like my mind during the class on Shakespeare. There are a few jabs at men, but the blows land like you got hit by a girl anyway. And if you think I'm being facetious, trust me, I'm not. Captain Marvel doesn't browbeat you with politics like Black Panther did, but the message is bumbled so badly it was like losing a 23-point lead in the Super Bowl. The entire message is summed up in a 5-second compilation clip that fails to be inspiring. I'll just say it outright, Wonder Woman did it better. There is no moment in Captain Marvel that even remotely comes close to the No Man Land scene. Instead, the biggest laugh in the entire movie is made by the cat. Brie Larson, Oscar-winning actress, is outperformed by a fucking cat. Now, despite all the points I've made in this video, Captain Marvel isn't a terrible movie, but it still ends up being low tier alongside Ant-Man and the Wasp, Thor 2, Iron Man 2, and Black Panther. All of which are still enjoyable despite the last one being so unironically hypocritical that I wanted to Dark Souls a literal brick wall. Captain Marvel is worth a watch if you're a die-hard MCU fan, but if you don't really care, just skip it and wait for Avengers Endgame to give Captain Marvel a better introduction for you to the character like Captain America Civil War introduced Black Panther. Now excuse me while I write a very greasy, angry letter to Hollywood about how the hell Captain Marvel got the Super Saiyan treatment, but we haven't gotten a legitimate Dragon Ball Z movie yet.